Hello, everybody. Ben Rogers here, the Raptors Digest, reacting to. We don't know the final score of this game yet because we've started this podcast with about 3 minutes to go because we just wanted to get it out of the way as this game was just. It was abysmal, Riker.
Yeah, it was a Bismack Biombo, but sorry, horrible pun. No, it certainly was. It's not the worst game to lose.
Yep.
You know, there's no expectations on the Raptors this season, right? The entirety of this season is based upon the performance and the outcome of the playoffs. So, you know, they could lose 20 games straight as long as they make the playoffs. That's when, you know, the real challenge comes. That's when they really need to lock in. And, you know, it's never bad to win a tough game after you've been on a high, to bring your, you know, the whole team back to, you know, back to earth, back to a working mindset. Of course, this game was one of the sloppiest, one of the worst I've ever seen. But with that being said, it's not, you know, it's not the end of the world that this is a big L for the Raptors.
Okay, so we should get it out of the way. We shouldn't trade everybody after this game, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we do have a tendency to get really low on players after a loss, but you're absolutely correct. We are not going to recommend trading any players. We're not going to recommend to tank this season.
Tank for RJ. Tank for RJ. That's all I have to say. But in all seriousness, though, we didn't have Kawhi tonight as he's resting on the front night of a back-to-back. OG Anunoby, he was out tonight for personal reasons, I believe, and Fred VanVleet didn't play as well. Obviously, the Bucks didn't have Giannis either, but those are three guys in our rotation that are, you know, we all know Kawhi Leonard is our superstar, our main guy, but the bench, especially tonight, just looked so dysfunctional and, you know, not organized, didn't really look. You know, the bench mob hasn't really been there this year, looking like the bench mob of old, but usually we have a decently strong bench, and without Fred tonight, it really showed through how poorly the bench played, and obviously OG defensively is such a huge asset.
Yeah, I mean, these are crucial pieces that really can't be understated, and I said to you before the podcast started, really Kawhi is the moral leader, he's the emotional leader, because he's so level-headed. He's also the number one defensive guy, the number one scoring guy. But Fred, he's that exact same thing for the bench mob, and you could really see it this evening that the playing, no matter what unit was out there, was just so lackluster and so frantic, and they turned over the ball a bunch. They weren't able to get back on defense. They weren't able to finish 3-on-1 transition opportunities. They were throwing the ball needlessly out of bounds. They were throwing behind-the-back passes when they were down 25 points. Like, I couldn't understand why Nick Nurse was clapping after a timeout when the Bucks hit maybe their fourth, you know, transition three in a row, and he has a positive face. I mean, this, if I was the coach, this is, you know, I'm smashing the game board on my knee and I'm yelling at all the players, right? And I'm going down to, you know, Chris Boucher, telling him to get out on the court. Like, I didn't understand it, but you know, it's like I said, this is the Fred effect, this is the Kawhi effect, and it really was apparent to me.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I'd love to have seen you coaching the Raptors tonight. I think that would have been a phenomenal look, just watching how intensely you get into ball games. But you know, I know we like to leave the segments for last, and we'll leave the last two for last. But I really wanted to throw the DeMarre Carroll Gold Star out there tonight. I know how we said we're not going to totally bash on players, but tonight the DeMarre Carroll Gold Star, it's got to go to Lorenzo Brown.
Yeah. All right, justify it.
He's been getting a lot of minutes, and I know he had that strong fourth quarter the other game, but he tries to do way too much. He's not shooting, he's not finishing his plays. I think he can be a talented guy. Like, in theory, he's a good player, but when I see him on the court, he just hasn't been having it on a consistent basis. And tonight, 2 for 9 from the field, 5 points and 19 minutes of action. When Fred is injured, who's our main backup point guard. DeLon Wright still not there as he's coming off injury, and Lowry not having the greatest scoring night. You want Lorenzo to at least be, you know,
present,
solid.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
it's an interesting point. I mean, I would certainly give the DeMarre Carroll Gold Star Award for worst performance tonight to Kyle Lowry. His assist numbers were still extremely elevated.
Phenomenal.
Right? But to not even get in the double digits, to shoot 21% from the field, to have 4 turnovers on the game, to have a possession where it was, again, one of these very sloppy fast break opportunities, but he got blocked, and then he just, hung his head, didn't even bother to go back on defense. This is the most frustrating aspect of last season, right? Mm-hmm. And this is why I say the importance of Fred and Kawhi is that their emotions is what really leads the lineup that's on the court, right? And those guys are both, regardless if they're shooting well or playing, amazing, playing poorly, they never get into extreme mood swings. And this is, what Lowry falls victim to, and Kyle and DeMar did, kind of fed off of each other last season, and he swung back into that. And if with the absence of Kawhi, Kyle Lowry steps up to be that A guy, and if he's hanging his head, then of course the rest of the team is going to do poor. So I mean, I give that big star to Kyle Lowry tonight because I expected way more from him.
That's a very fair point there. As Kyle Lowry, you mentioned that Kawhi and Fred are, you said, kind of the emotional leaders, right? Lowry's the pit bull, the engine that gets us going. But I agree with you on the point that like the people that have really maintained and made sure the Raptors are staying at that consistent high level, and whether things are going right, going wrong, Kawhi and Fred seem to have stepped up and be those guys when the bench mob is in, it's Fred, and when the starters are in, it's Kawhi, as the two main best players that really keep the team level-headed. So I think that's very fair. As Lowry, because Lowry is like the spark plug, the pit bull, but he needs to do a better job at just staying level, because that's the issue when Lowry has poor games. He did do a great job at assisting tonight. That's why I didn't want to give it to him. But another one that we could have in contention is CJ Miles. The GoDaddy curse is real, Riker.
Yeah.
The GoDaddy curse.
It's certain.
1 for 7 from 3.
Yeah, but I mean, CJ Miles, I don't even understand really what his shot is. He prefers to be, to not look at the rim before he shoots, to not be balanced, to not, have square footing. I mean, I'm starting to believe that it's really more lucky if he makes a shot than anything, because he seems to have such atrocious shot selection. But as you said, we can stand around and bash players all day. Ultimately, it's a game that I'm sure the coach is going to make all the players look and review the tapes. I'm sure that there's going to be a lot to criticize, a lot to build upon, but they're going to bounce back from this. They're going to have, and they're going to have more terrible losses like this throughout the season. That's just a fact. I'm interested to talk about a little bit. What do you think about the Bucks? Because obviously this is going to be a key matchup throughout the season now. The Raptors, the Bucks, the Celtics, all fighting for that number 1 position. Undoubtedly, we'll face one of them in the playoffs. To me, they looked really good. Malcolm Brogdon, he looked like a god tonight. Couldn't be stopped. Their 3-point shooting was amazing. Their biggest thing, I think, was their length on defense. Really scared the Raptors from going into the lane and finishing.
Yeah, no, most definitely. That's the thing about the Bucks. In the past, everyone said that they, in theory, should be a phenomenal defensive team, despite with their length and their athleticism and their personnel, but they can never really put it together. And Coach Mike Budenholzer, who they just hired this offseason, has done wonders for this team. Making them actually have defensive sets and move the ball on offense. And we saw them just bang 3 after 3. So the Bucks are a legitimately scary team at the top of the East. Obviously, this game would be different with Giannis and Kawhi and all them playing, but the Bucks have a really underrated set of role players. You mentioned it. Malcolm Brogdon, he's a guy that was Rookie of the Year 2 years ago and had injury problems all last season, so a lot of people forgot about how good that guy is. He was a plus 27 for the night tonight. 17 points, 5 rebounds. He's a very solid player. Eric Bledsoe, with the flack he got for getting cooked by Terry Rozier that one game, he's still a phenomenal player. He had 17, one of the best defensive guards, and the one guy that everyone forgets about, right? But actually, they have a couple, because I can name their roster, and they have great players. Chris Middleton is Giannis' second in command. Didn't have the greatest night tonight, but he can put the ball in the hole phenomenally. But Brook Lopez, not the greatest shooting night tonight, but he's been stroking it from 3 for the Bucks this season. So they just have an all-around team, which is going to have a top-tier team in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, no, and I was about to say that if you didn't mention it, that to me, Brook Lopez is the X factor this season because really what he allows is just people do forget about him. They sleep on him. But at one point, he was one of the best centers in the league, right? Or he was leading his team. He still has that skill. He's developed his 3-point game, and he's more of a traditional center. But they have so much athleticism and length that when they have Giannis back, or when they do have Giannis in the lineup, right, they have Eric Bledsoe, Malcolm Brogdon, Chris Middleton, and Giannis, all very fast, very long players. And then Brook Lopez, he can never really be exposed, even if he's not as versatile out on perimeter defense, because, if somebody blows past them, then they have guys that are, basically the size of centers to step in on help defense.
No, most definitely. And they didn't even have Giannis tonight. So that's even more scary, as he's a phenomenal defender as well. But, yeah, I think it's going to be a lot more fun to see these teams at full strength play, as it'll probably be a better game. And yeah, one question I wanted to give to you.
Yeah.
Do you think this could be a possible Eastern Conference Finals, or to put it more directly, are you more afraid of the Celtics or the Bucks right now?
Yeah, no, perfect question. Yeah, I mean, we've never faced the Celtics, in an intense matchup that really truly matters. Playoffs given,
in the playoffs,
and we've seen the Bucks now in the playoffs, and we've had some horrible games where the Bucks won by 40 points, and I think, geez, this is the end of the Raptors here. To be honest, from what I see, I think the Bucks match up much better against the Raptors in terms of them being able to defeat the Raptors. And of course, this is me putting the Raptors as the team to beat in the Eastern Conference. Mm-hmm. So assuming that the Raptors are the team to beat, I think that the Bucks are much better equipped. Will the Bucks make it to the Eastern Conference Finals? I'm not entirely sure. I don't know how the rankings is going to play out towards, playoff time, obviously. But if it does so happen that there's a matchup, given the choice between the two, I'd almost rather play the Celtics. That's, probably a hot take, but that's what I think.
Yeah, I have 1,000% agree, because I look at the Bucks, and they have a better player than anyone on the Celtics. They're kind of similar to the Raptors in a sense that they have a top-tier player in the East. Because I'd say that Kawhi and Giannis are the top two guys in the Eastern Conference. I think that's hard to debate.
Of course.
But they also, because everyone talks about the Celtics' depth and how many players they have. But they have a lot of guys that do the same things. And the teams like the Raptors and the Bucks have a lot of depth as well. We saw Giannis not play tonight, and Ersan Ilyasova stepped up with 19 points and 10 rebounds. And he's a guy that we haven't even talked about, who's an absolute beast the second half of the season for the Philadelphia 76ers. Thon Maker off the bench. I know he's a bit sketchy in the regular season, but he somehow seems to turn it on every playoff run. So, and then they got guys hiding down there like DiVincenzo and Connaughton, who hit a bunch of threes, and Tony Snell, the Raptor killer, Tony Snell. I don't know. The Bucks are looking nice this season, and I might have to agree with you on the Celtics. We got to see how well the Celtics come together, as obviously they haven't really been what everyone expects they're going to be right now at the beginning of the season. But the Bucks look really nice on paper right now, and on the court.
Yep. No, it's good to have this intensity from the Eastern Conference. It really drops off after the third team. I mean, the 76ers. Maybe they'll tighten it up, but I think that they've lost a lot of pieces, and they in my opinion aren't perhaps as strong as they were last season, despite obviously the development of the young players. We'll see how it happens, but at least the top three are certainly going to be fighting throughout the whole season. Before we get too long to the podcast, we'll hit those last two segment pieces. The Kawhi light, the Kawhi you do 'em like that. We'll string all three together here tonight.
Okay.
Is there anything that shone through tonight? Is that how you properly say it?
Okay.
Sean?
I have no idea if that's how you properly say it, but before we actually say it, I want to let the fans know about the name of the Kawhi you do 'em like that, whatever play of the day. So we made an Instagram poll, a second one, Riker. So we made the first one, the Kawhi Light versus the Kawhi, two great names given to us by the fans, and we got a lot of pushback. The Kawhi Light won out, and people said that they like the Kawhi you do 'em like that name. So we made a second poll on the Instagram account. So for people that don't follow the Instagram, always follow that, check that out, because we got a lot of cool stuff on there and polls, including this one. And a 50-50 split, or it said percentages, between the Kawhi you do 'em like that and Kawhi Light. It was 600 and something.
Wow.
But it was 50-50, it said on the percentages, but the Kawhi you do 'em like that won out.
Wow, okay.
It won out by incremental amounts, so that's the name we're going with. That's
the Kawhi you do 'em.
It was the original one.
Wow.
It was the original one. It won out on the polls. We appreciate you guys giving feedback, participating in the polls, giving names. You're the best for all that. But so the name held through, and tonight we really didn't have a play that looked that nice, So I'm just going to give it to Serge Ibaka and Pascal Siakam because they, despite the team playing pretty bad, two of those guys played pretty well. I got to give it to them. I got to give it to the two guys. Serge Ibaka, 30 points, 9 rebounds. Pascal Siakam, 22 points, 8 rebounds. We've been a bit sad on this podcast, not too negative, but what were your thoughts on those two guys' performances?
Yeah, I mean, somebody had to step up. This isn't a team that, has no ability to score once you lose one player. So you hope that somebody's going to have a decent night, of course. Serge Ibaka, I still thought that he, was trying to live out the 3-point a little bit too much, but then he kind of settled into his game and did the mid-range. Siakam looked a little bit wild tonight, but I mean, I think both of them, their heart was in the right place, and at least they were able to produce somewhat.
Yeah, no, two of the guys, tough night, but they played well. That's some silver lining on this gray cloud of a loss, but not all players, as we know, can be the Kawhi you do them like that players of the game. We have to switch up the phrase for the special segment, and some just make you say OGs. Mm-hmm. And tonight, the OGs plays of the day go to the behind the back passes all of our point guards were trying to throw tonight. Riker, was there like a bet between Lorenzo Lowry and DeLon Wright on how many behind the back passes they can mess up in a game?
I don't know. Maybe they're like, hey, who can throw the most behind the back passes and not get benched for the rest of the game? Like a game of chicken.
With Fred out, they're just memeing out there.
They're memeing, yeah. They're like, the game's over. Let's just try to be our best Jason Williams impression. And none of them can live up to the White Thunder.
White chocolate.
What is it?
Thunder.
The White Mamba. White chocolate? White chocolate? I don't know. I haven't seen any Jason Williams mixtapes in quite some time.
The White Thunder. I love that nickname.
Yeah, I mean, the Bucks have plenty of guys on the team.
Yeah.
Maybe one of their guys stroking threes can get that nickname if they continue to play well. Also, shout out tonight to Klay Thompson hitting the all-time threes in a game record. Did you see the score after the second quarter? 90 points for the Golden State Warriors before
They're so good.
Half.
Hopefully they don't do that in the finals. That's
ridiculous.
all I have to say. Hopefully they're just chilling in the finals. But yeah, Klay Thompson, absolutely ridiculous. What are your thoughts on Steve Kerr subbing everyone out every time they break records in the third quarter?
Yeah, you want to see just how much they can do, but maybe the methodology is like, he's like, okay, well, we'll give the opportunity for Steph now to get 15 and, a game of tic-tac-toe or bing, bang, boom, just a little back and forth action.
That's an interesting take. Maybe they just want to keep breaking the records,
Yeah, keep the limelight on the Golden State Warriors. Regardless, we're straying off topic here. We just don't have too much to talk about on the Raptors front tonight, so apologize for, any sort of befuddled conversation, but we're wrapping it up here now. I hope that the Raptors will bounce back. I'm pretty promised, I'm pretty impressionable that they will. I think they got a good team, good coach. This is nothing. It's just a little blip in the ultimate goal.
And you know what they say? If it isn't nothing, tank for RJ. That's all That's all I'm...
I'm sure that they is a huge population.
Huge. Anyways, thanks for listening. As I said before, check out the Instagram. It's been pretty popping as of late, so get on the bandwagon, the Raptors Digest bandwagon while you can. It'll always be open, but check out the Instagram, the Twitter, all that cool stuff. You're the best for making this far.
Cheers.